This video is sponsored by Raycon. I like to play games when I can and as many as I can throughout the year, but games are just becoming more and more expensive to do so, and after this Switch 2 situation, Nintendo has made it so much harder, and it has me thinking, how valuable exactly is Xbox Game Pass after this, and is Nintendo about to repeat a giant failure like the PlayStation 3? I like to dive into hypothetical topics like this with you to help us geek out about video games and share ideas about them. So if you like that, make sure you subscribe. But today, man, it's crazy to think how the Xbox One launch went so poorly. And for some things, that's kind of similar to the Nintendo situation, like the whole DRM issue and other things. And, you know, Nintendo's got similar things going on with digital stuff now, but that's aside from the point.
Stick with 360, that's your message if you don't.
Well, but another thing the Xbox One lacked in that era that Nintendo does have covered right now is the amount of studios. Like at the Xbox One era, they only had 5 studios, and now over 10 years later and $80 billion later, Xbox is the biggest publisher in the world, apparently. But lately, a lot of people are debating about this whole multi-platform and non-exclusive direction Xbox is going. But what's the alternative? Well, kind of what Nintendo's doing. I'm gonna mess with you guys and change glasses throughout this video because I can now. See, the Nintendo Switch nearly became the most sold console of all time, and Nintendo rode that success kind of like PlayStation did with the PlayStation 3 after the PlayStation 2, and we know how that went.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Now, I'm not saying that's gonna happen to Nintendo as well, but, you know, they're pricing their system much higher than the Switch 1 was priced, and that's kind of because, you know, console prices just don't go down anymore, unfortunately. But that's not really the big issue. The bigger issue is that Mario Kart World and even older games that have been out for 5+ years with their Switch 2 editions are now going to be $80. $80. I am honestly not sure if I have ever seen this much outrage from anything Nintendo's ever done. I would love, if you're aware of a situation, let me know in the comments because I'd be very curious to find that out. But the real scary part about this situation, big picture wise, is what it's going to allow every other publisher to do. There's been a lot of rumors that Rockstar is going to start, well, not going to start, but going to make Grand Theft Auto 6 be $100 and they could get away with it. That was before these $80 games, and now that Nintendo's done it, they could probably get away with it. Back in 2020, PlayStation did a very similar thing, jumping on the $70 priced gun, and now every other publisher is doing it, including Xbox, mind you, but they're kind of going about it in a different way. And I ask you, is that worth it? Like, what is a game that is easily worth the $80 to $100 price tag to you? Like, I can name some of those, but I get worried about that being the standard. And luckily, we've seen some successes like $20 to $40 priced games like Pal World and Helldivers 2 last year. Those 2 games sold phenomenally well, and maybe that was because they were way more approachable for everybody because they had lower price tags. But then we also have something like Expedition 33, who is touting being this, you know, big JRPG-like game in a sort of open world with a lot of content for $50. And that's coming up soon. But not only that, it is launching day 1 on... Let's compare Xbox Game Pass to what Nintendo's approach is after a quick word from our sponsor. So, you're looking for new Bluetooth earbuds. Let me tell you about the everyday Raycon earbuds. I've had these now for a few months, and honestly, I think the amount of times I've had to recharge them is like literally a handful. And while the sound quality is great, the real thing I appreciate is that it can tune out things in their noise canceling mode that, you know, in case the house is on fire or something. And if you've paid attention to a few of my
streams and reactions.
I've actually been wearing the earbuds when I'm at my desk and watching stuff because they just simultaneously sync with both my phone and my computer. So basically, if my phone isn't doing anything, then I can just hear my computer through these without having to resync them or go back and forth. Plus, if you want a smooth case, if the camera will focus, let's see. Oh, look, you did it! They sell these silicone smooth cases that just fit right on it, and man, they feel good. And I like to wear these when I go on walks or just move around too, because they haven't fallen out. Like, that was fun. If they're too expensive for you, then luckily Raycon's running a 20% off promotion until April 21st for Mother's Day. So if you want to get one for yourself or her, there you go. But don't worry if you're watching this afterwards, I got another coupon code for you that you could just use whenever. That is my very own. And if you don't like them, they have a great 30-day policy where you could just return them. So check out the Raycon Everyday Earbuds in the description below. And thank you so much to Raycon for sponsoring this video. Back to Xbox glasses. 2017 Xbox Game Pass began, and a lot of us were skeptic, like the idea that Xbox would just add games to a service and launch their first party stuff, which again, at the time was lacking, and now it's a very different situation. You know, none of us thought that would work, but then here we are with it still up almost 10 years later, and PlayStation Plus and Nintendo Online created their own answers to that service. The only thing that they couldn't quite match, however, is that day one benefit of launching games day one on Xbox Game Pass when they just came out. The only thing with that is absolutely locked is everything first party Xbox. Every IP, studio, whatever that is an Xbox thing that they have after those $80 billion, they're launching it day one on Game Pass, and Call of Duty last year proved that, man. They are going to abide by that promise. Now we come back to the thing that's been worrying people lately in terms of the Xbox side of things. You know, we talked about Nintendo pricing $80 games, but the Xbox side, it's like, what? How can you possibly function as Xbox without exclusives? If you don't have exclusives anymore, then what's the point of getting an Xbox? As I record this, if you subscribed early April, you could play through South of Midnight, 33 Immortals, and Expedition 33 all this month. Like 33 Immortals came out last month. I just want to shout out that game because that is a really fun game and you should try it. And hit me up if you play it because I need more people to play with. Anyways, so I ask, what is more tempting to you personally? You could get an $80 game for the Switch 2, or you could get 4 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I'm sure that's really subjective, you know, like somebody might be a die-hard for Zelda and they've never played Tears of the Kingdom and they want to play the Switch 2 version for $80 and that's worth it to them. Sure. Then there's others that, admittedly like me, that say Doom the Dark Ages. Doom the Dark Ages is a $70 game that's probably well worth the price tag alone, but if you subscribed for that same, you know, move that to $80 for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you could play Doom the Dark Ages alongside 3 or 4 other games. It depends on how big those are. You know, like if they're an open world game or something like that, then that your mileage may vary, but if they are small to large, 3 to 4 other games alongside Doom. That's, to me, well worth the $80 that would have gotten you a single Nintendo game. It's just really putting things into context to me, thinking about Nintendo pricing their games at $80 and what could we do with that $80, especially when we put into context with, hell, even PS Plus Extra, you know, like I don't have that in the script here, but I'm just realizing that, you know, you could do 4 months of PS Plus Extra and play a lot of games with that, whereas Nintendo, you do that with 4 months of the Nintendo expansion pack, you have to play super old retro stuff. But Xbox, it is stuff coming out. It is their Mario Kart. It is their Donkey Kong. It is their Kirby that you get to play day one if you just subscribe for the month for $20. You play it and you go on to the next thing. Now, obviously, Xbox isn't doing this out of the goodness of their heart. It is a business, and it's hard to imagine how that is profitable for them. But as a consumer, I don't care. Like, I'm just going to abuse this while Nintendo fans keep getting spanked. Nintendo's only answer to this is the Nintendo voucher program. Like, that's the only answer, where you spend $100 and you could buy 2 games within that year. $100 for 2 games versus $100 for 5 months to play as many as you want. I am not leaving Xbox Game Pass anytime soon because I like to experiment. I like to try out new things. I this year tried out a game called Citizen Sleeper. It was like a 6 to 10 hour game, but oh my gosh, it was amazing. It blew my mind, and I probably would have never played it if it wasn't for Game Pass. But how does Microsoft afford to let Xbox do this? They can't pull out of their capital. Don't say it's because they're a freaking $1 trillion company. There is business behind it. And aren't they missing out on a lot of sales by going multi-platform because people aren't going to be on Xbox? Find out how that works in these 2 videos where I break down Xbox Game Pass's math and the multi-platform strategy. But what are your biggest fears and highlights of Xbox Game Pass? Like, I'd love to discuss that with you in the comments below. Let me know.